Hi guys, this is Magdalena Fręch. See you guys tomorrow.
Tennis experts are absolutely losing it right now.
Losses she takes, part of the learning experience. She's too good a player. She'll figure it out. Her resilience.
Something unusual is happening in tennis right now, and the sport itself is struggling to keep up. Not the players. Not the rallies. The system. Because a current WTA player, someone who lives this tour every single week, just said something that stopped people in their tracks. No hesitation, no filters. She said if she were running a tournament, she would build the entire schedule around one player. Not the world number one. Not a Grand Slam champion. Not even a top 10 regular. She said she would build it around Alex. A 20-year-old, ranked outside the top 40, walking into Rome with more noise around her than players who have spent years at the top. And when you hear that at first, it sounds exaggerated, until you start following the trail. Because once you do, piece by piece, it becomes impossible to ignore. Alex arrives at the Italian Open ranked 42 in the world. Just 6 weeks ago, she was sitting at a career high of 29. On paper, that places her comfortably in the middle tier of the draw. Respectable, but not headline territory. Her first match? A solid opponent. A routine opening round. The kind of match that usually gets slotted quietly into the early schedule without much attention. But nothing about Alex feels routine anymore. And that's where the tension begins. Tennis has always operated on a simple equation: ranking equals relevance. The higher you are, the bigger the court. The bigger the court, the bigger the crowd. Everything, from ticket pricing to scheduling, is built around that assumption. It's been that way for decades. Stable. Predictable. Almost mechanical. But Alex, she doesn't fit into that equation. She's breaking it. Not slowly. Not subtly. But loudly, in front of packed stands and overwhelmed security teams. Go back just a few months. January. Australian Open. Her first ever main draw match at a Grand Slam. Based on ranking, she gets placed on an outer court. Logical decision. Safe decision. The kind of decision the system makes every single day. But then the crowd shows up. And suddenly, nothing feels logical anymore. The court fills. Then it overfills. Then people start getting turned away. Outside, fans gather around screens just to catch a glimpse. Inside, the noise doesn't behave like a first-round match, it sounds like something much bigger. The umpire has to step in more than once, asking for quiet during points. That almost never happens in matches like this. And by the end of it, something had clearly gone wrong, not with Alex, but with the system that underestimated her. She didn't even win that match. And somehow, that didn't matter. Because nobody walked away talking about the score. They talked about the atmosphere. About the energy. About the feeling that something had shifted. And then came the reactions. Not from fans. From insiders. A respected voice in tennis media looked at what had just happened and didn't hold back. He didn't call her up and coming. He didn't limit it to a region or a moment. He said, plainly, that Alex might already be the most popular player in the sport right now. Not someday. Not in the future. Right now. And when someone with that level of credibility says something like that, it lands differently. Because it's not hype. It's observation. But if Australia was the warning sign, Abu Dhabi was the confirmation. A few weeks later, Alex steps onto court again, this time in a WTA 500 event. She's not seeded. Not expected to go deep. But the stands? Completely full. And then the match unfolds. She falls behind. Hard. 4-0 in the final set. Then 5-2. Match point against her. At that stage, most matches end quietly. This one didn't. She fights back. Point by point. Game by game. The crowd rose with every swing. Until somehow, she turns it around. She wins. And the stadium erupts. And in that moment, still catching her breath, still standing in the middle of it all, she looks around and says something simple. Honest. Almost disbelieving. She calls it insane. Not in a rehearsed way. In a real way. Like she's still trying to process what's happening around her. And maybe that's what makes it hit harder. Because she's not acting like someone who expects this level of attention. She's reacting to it the same way everyone else is, surprised. Then comes the moment that really shifts the conversation. A fellow player, someone who knows exactly how crowds behave across different tournaments, watches all of this and says something that echoes far beyond one match. She says if Alex is in your event, you make sure she's on the schedule every single day. Singles. Doubles. It doesn't matter. Because people come to watch her, and they stay. Think about that. That's not fan excitement. That's a professional assessment. That's someone inside the system saying, this player changes everything. And by the time March rolls around, the pattern is impossible to ignore. At Indian Wells, one of the biggest tournaments outside the Grand Slams, something unexpected happens again. Practice courts, usually calm, almost relaxed, start drawing massive crowds whenever Alex steps on them. Not just solid attendance. Bigger than what some of the biggest names in the sport are pulling at the same time. Practice sessions. Let that sink in. And even she admits it. She didn't expect this. She says it openly. That this kind of support, it's not something most players ever experience. And you can hear it in her words. Gratitude, yes, but also a kind of quiet disbelief. Like she knows this isn't normal. And she's right. It isn't. Even the business side of tennis is starting to take notice. People who have seen global stars rise, who understand what it takes to shift an entire market, are looking at Alex and using one word over and over again. Crazy. Not as criticism. As recognition. Because what she's doing doesn't follow the usual patterns. She's coming from a country that historically hasn't been a tennis powerhouse. And yet everywhere she goes, the crowds follow. Loud. Loyal. Consistent. And suddenly, the conversation gets bigger. Much bigger. Because this isn't just about matches anymore. It's about impact. A new professional tournament has already been established in her home country. That doesn't happen easily. That doesn't happen quickly. And it definitely doesn't happen without a reason. She's not just playing the game. She's expanding it. Changing its geography. And that's where the comparison starts to creep in, the idea of one player opening the door for millions of new fans. It's not a small claim. But the early signs? They're there. Still, this isn't a perfect story. Not even close. Because while the crowds have been growing, the results, they've been tough. Especially on clay. The losses have been heavy. Straight sets. Difficult matches where nothing quite clicks. Leads slipping away at the worst moments. It's the kind of stretch that tests everything: confidence, rhythm, and belief. And this is where the real question begins. Because hype can carry you into the spotlight. But it can't win matches for you. That part, she has to figure out. And to her credit, she hasn't stepped back. She hasn't taken the easy route. After those losses, she went straight back to work. Back to training. Back to refining. No shortcuts. No excuses. Just preparation. Because Rome isn't just another stop. It's a chance. A chance to push back into the top 32. And that matters more than it might seem. Because once you're seeded, everything changes. The draw opens up. The path becomes clearer. The system, the same one that once underestimated her, finally starts to adjust. But here's the bigger picture. Even without that ranking jump, even without a deep run yet on clay, Alex has already done something rare. She's exposed a gap. A gap between how tennis measures importance and how the world actually feels it. The rankings say one thing. The crowds say another. And right now, those two things are not aligned. So as she steps onto the court in Rome, there's more at stake than just a first-round match. This is about momentum. About proof. About whether the player can match the phenomenon that's already taken off around her. Because the attention is there. The support is undeniable. The belief, from fans, from players, from insiders, is growing. But now comes the part where it all has to connect. And maybe that's what makes this moment so compelling. We're not looking at the end of a story. We're right in the middle of it. Still unfolding. Still uncertain. Still building. So here's the question. Not just whether Alex can win in Rome. Not just whether she can break back into the top 32. But something bigger. Has she already become one of the most important players in women's tennis? Or is that moment still waiting on a major title to make it official? Because one thing is clear. The system didn't see her coming. The crowds did. And now, the entire sport is watching what happens next.